Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming and hopping on the call. As a reminder, this will be recorded for those of us who couldn't make it or anybody who would like to rewatch it. We will not be taking any questions tonight, so feel free to reach out afterwards if you have any questions on the content we covered, or if there was something that you thought we were going to cover that we didn't get to. As a reminder, and I'll remind at the end of the presentation as well, please follow us on social media. So in review, the start of 2023, we covered new limits having to do with, contributions to retirement accounts. Also followed up with a market overview video at the end of January. 2022 was quite volatile, but 2023, we look a little bit more optimistic as the year progresses. And then tonight, we're going to be talking about different ways to trick yourself into saving and investing more. So again, covered the limits, contributions to retirement plans at the start of the year, talk about some ways that maybe we can create strategies around being able to maximize our retirement savings and our investing. Many of you by now probably know who makes up the Emerge team, but as a reminder, Heather Jordan, who is the managing director of Emerge 360, is on the team. She is a CFP, which is certified financial planner, so works with all of our clients in that capacity. I'm the financial coach on the team, work with a lot of our 401k plans, providing education, and also with our individual clients on Emerge as well. All right, let's jump right in here. So again, we're gonna talk about 5 different ways to trick yourself into saving and investing more. A lot of it will seem self-explanatory, but can sometimes be challenging to put into practice. And then at the end, like we usually do, we'll follow up with some resources in regards to Emerge 360 and some of the services that we provide. So 5 ways to trick yourself into saving. So first and foremost, why is that important, right? We look at a subject that we want to present on, and then we ask ourselves, why is it important? So usually that involves some type of study. So 77% of Americans are anxious about their financial situation. 58% feel that their finances control their lives, and 52% have difficulty controlling their money-related worries, right? So a lot of anxiety, a lot of worry around people's financial picture. But only 32% of US household incomes prepare a monthly budget, which really leads into those tips and tricks of being able to save more, being able to invest more. So first tip and trick here is create a budget. Creating a budget is really one of those things that everyone thinks is very simple, and they think that they can kind of bypass that and they'll be able to kind of encourage and expand their savings and investing. But creating a budget, while simple, can be one of the most impactful exercises, whether you're a single person, have a spouse, partner, or have a family, right? So does a budget really matter? Yes, it does. It's a great way to just get everything on paper and kind of see what you actually spend money on, what you're actually investing, where are areas of the budget that you can change and alter that helps benefit the other side of your financial picture. So it really provides that framework to evaluate those different spending habits, really breaking out different areas of spending, right? So we have our fixed costs, which are inclusive of your rent, mortgage, car payments, and then your variable costs, which change month over month, right? Groceries, dining out, monthly different subscriptions, etc. Really, how much can I spend versus could I be saving more? So it really gets into the specifics of where you can target certain areas of your budget, and on the flip side, invest or save more in that process. So at the end of the month, is your income greater than your expenses? If not, what can be adjusted within the budget to help you succeed in that way? There are a lot of different free resources, budget templates out there on the internet. I've just used an Excel spreadsheet, right? Line up your fixed costs, your fixed expenses, your variable expenses, what you're bringing in as income, right? Different debts that you owe as well, you can incorporate. So really an Excel spreadsheet is better than anything, but there are different templates out on the internet and different free resources that you can be able to utilize. And, last reason to create a budget, may provide a greater peace of mind. We went over some stats on the first page, but Schwab did a survey. Again, 54% of Americans with a written plan feel very confident about reaching financial goals versus 18% of those without a plan. So again, going back to my initial comments of saying, a budget, while it seems easy in practice, and we think we can kind of bypass some of that budget strategy, and we'll be able to accomplish and check mark all of our goals. Implementing a budget in some capacity really helps get you there, really holds you accountable in different aspects. All right, budget guidelines. So this, I think we might have even shared this on a previous webinar, but this is the 50-30-20 rule. So very broad, right? Wide scope, but is an easy guideline to remember. So 50% of your budget should go towards your needs. So what you actually need to live, right? Housing, transportation, debt payments. 30% of your budget towards your wants. So think of your extracurriculars, clothing, traveling, etc. And then 20% of your budget towards savings. This is kind of an enhanced savings number. A lot of times when we're doing education for our 401k participants, we talk about targeting 10 to 15% of your pre-tax income towards retirement accounts. That's between you and your employer. This 20% number is an inflated number that it includes your emergency fund, which we'll talk about, and any extra debt payments, right? So, call it 10 to 20%, really trying to work towards that 15-20% goal over time. And having a budget really allows you to, to be transparent with your spending habits and different ways that you could save and adjust your budget to hit that savings target. Budget guidelines having to do with debt management. So there's a couple debt management and debt related slides in here. So debt expenses, again, this is what the industry encourages, that no more than 20% of your net income, so pre-tax, or think of your take-home pay, right? You've already paid tax on it, net income for consumer debt, auto loans, credit cards, etc. 28% of your gross income for housing debt, okay? And then that's your pre-tax income. And then 36% of your gross income for total debt. And think of all your debt. We get a lot of questions on housing debt, and we have a good example numerically for us visual learners to see where we should fall in with how much house we can afford. And we'll go to that now. So housing considerations, how much house can you afford? So this is based on about $100,000 of household income, okay, which breaks down to about $8,300 a month. So using the 28% guideline that the industry has out there, you should be paying no more than $2,300 towards your mortgage payment, and no more than $2,700 for your total housing payment as well. So again, everyone's situation is different. These are just guidelines kind of set by the industry, and when we look at different budgeting related material, but no more than 28% of your gross income should go towards your mortgage payment, rent payment, etc. All right, second tip and trick here, pay yourself first, right? So set aside savings each month before buying anything else, right? Whether this is a retirement account, built up savings, you're trying to build an emergency fund, or excess savings even past that emergency fund. If your goal is to put, $250 a month into savings, transfer the amount at the beginning of the month and not at the end, right? Because if you save it at the beginning, there's less risk of you spending it by the end. So, my wife and I try to, save X amount a month in addition to what we're contributing to retirement. And I will say it's a lot easier doing this at the beginning of the month than it is at the end of the month, because if it's there, sometimes we'll spend it, right? In our case, we have no kids. We like to go out to eat a lot. And sometimes that can get caught up into what is your goal in relation to excess savings, right? So little tip there, make sure to, if you're just transferring it into a separate savings account, try to do that at the beginning of the month instead of the end of the month. Emergency fund. So this is very important and has to do with paying yourself first. So most experts and we've covered this before in different ways, that you should keep 3 to 6 months of living expenses in an emergency fund. Okay, and that is liquid accounts, checking, savings, money market, CDs, as long as they're very short term, underneath your mattress, whatever makes you feel comfortable. This is really that amount that provides a cushion in case anything unexpected comes up, right? The water heater goes out, you have an extended job loss that you're not able to get paid in full capacity relative to when you were working, medical emergencies. Again, it's really just that peace of mind, and a very important component of your overall kind of savings budget. Having that emergency fund, having that peace of mind that you have that there in case anything unexpected does come up. Make time your friend. Start investing early. So this is in relation to saving for retirement, right? Not just excess savings, not just an emergency fund, but paying yourself first when it comes to investing for your retirement. The beauty about 401k plans is that it's automatically deducted from your paycheck, right? Which is great for those of us who don't have access to a 401k. Might be a little bit more challenging if you're putting away individual money, right, into an IRA or an investment account. If you're working for a state pension, that's very similar to a 401k, right, where you're not having to actively take money out of your checking account, savings account, and funding a separate retirement account. But this is an example that talks about making time your friend, right, and start to invest early, start investing often. It's never too late to start, and this isn't to necessarily scare anybody if they feel like they're behind in any capacity, but it's a pretty cool slide that takes 4 different individuals and 4 separate kind of savings environments as they're working through their career. So the first one we have is Consistent Chloe. She invests for 40 years, from 25 to 65. So she invests at $96,000 total, which is based on $200 a month. And after earning interest in the stock market over that 40-year period, she has $420,000 at the start of retirement. Late Lila doesn't do anything for the first 10 years, but then does $200 a month for 30 years, age 35 to 65. And at the start of retirement, she has $210,000. This is the kind of the craziest example to me is Quitter Quincy. So he invests from 25 to 35, and then he doesn't do anything on for the rest of the time that he's working. So he invests $24,000 total, and basically has the same amount as Late Lila at retirement, right? So he put in $24,000 total, Lila put in $72,000 total, but they have the same amount at retirement. So the theory behind this is that the sooner you put your money into the market, the longer it has to work for you, and the greater impact of compounding interest, right? Returns in the stock market. So again, it's never too late to start, but starting early, starting often will really put you ahead of the game when it comes to saving for retirement. Now we have Nervous Noah here, who invests for 40 years, right? So puts the same amount as Chloe, but earns a very low return, and basically invested in a glorified money market account, and has about $148,000 at retirement. 3, debt payoff. So if you have incurred debt, and we all do in some capacity through our lives, right? Whether it's, mortgage, student loans, car loans, medical bills, being able to pay that off, over a shorter period of time, or just having it as a point of emphasis within your budget and within your financial goals, will really allow you to save more coming out of that, right? Because debt needs to be paid off eventually. So you need to make a plan to pay it off. And then on the other side, you'll be able to save more and be better off on the other side. So 2 different payoff methods we like to talk about with folks. Both revolve around making minimum payments on all of your debt, right? This example takes credit cards. So we have debt snowball method, which is you make minimum payments on all credit cards except the one with the smallest balance. Pay as much as you can with the card on the smallest balance until it's paid off, and then repeat with the next smallest balance. So this strategy being implemented is best for people who need immediate results to stay motivated, right? You have 10 different credit cards just for simple math, and you pay off the first one that is the lowest balance, which is, it's easier, and then you go to the next lowest, etc. Debt avalanche, on the other hand, again, you make the minimum payments on all credit cards except for the one with the highest interest rate. Instead of the one with the smallest balance, you target the one with the highest interest rate. Pay as much as you can on the higher interest rate card until it's paid off, and then repeat with the next highest interest rate. So this strategy is best for people who stick with long-term goals, even if it's not with super immediate results, right? You're not necessarily paying that one off completely in a quick manner like you are if you implement the debt snowball strategy. But the debt avalanche strategy is probably the most impactful, right? Because we all know how interest rates work, right? You accumulate interest on the debt that you own, on the credit card you own, and being able to pay the one off that is incurring the most amount of interest related debt is going to suit you better in the long term. But again, two different strategies depending on what type of results you want. If you want the short-term result, or if you're willing to kind of have long-term results within the debt avalanche strategy. Fourth tip here. So increase savings and or investments after a raise. Probably sound like a broken record if we've done education for you, or if you've been on previous webinars, but this really is, one of the biggest things, one of the most impactful things that you can do. And again, it's a very systematic approach. We want to control what we can control and not try to control what we can't, right? So we can't control what the stock market's doing, but we can control how much we contribute to our 401k and our retirement accounts. So again, initial savings is great, but systematically increasing your savings over time can be a game changer. And you really just want to tell yourself right from the beginning, okay, let's say I'm contributing 5%. Every time I get a 3% raise, I'm going to put all 3% in the 401k. I'm going to put 1%, I'm going to put 2%, whatever the case may be. Just try to systematically, create that process and have it in your head beforehand that when you get this raise, you're going to increase your contribution to your 401k, or you're going to put an extra $100 a month into savings, or an extra $200 a month into savings. This example shows, This example shows what it means to incrementally increase your contribution through the year. So it takes two individuals here, Jerry and Mary. Jerry is the blue shade and Mary is the green shade. But basically what it does, Mary and Jerry, they start working at the same age for the same company. Jerry, he, contributes X amount of his paycheck. It's 2% a year, and he just stays at that 2% a year. He doesn't increase it. He just stays at that 2% a year. And then Mary, on the other hand, starts out as the same as Jerry, but then she increases her deferral rate by 1% each year until it reaches 10. And then she continues to do 10% until she retires. So again, after 30 years is when you see the biggest difference. So Mary, just by increasing by 1% a year, has over $300,000 more than Jerry at retirement, who just stayed at that 2%, right? So again, even just taking the 1% rule, right? Not even putting, if you get 3% raise or 2% raise, not even putting that full amount in there, just doing 1% a year and the impact that can have. So again, this is something we encourage all of our clients to do, all of our participants in the 401k plans that TrustPoint administers, trying to implement this and systematically increasing your contribution, whether it's into retirement accounts or into savings, is something worth thinking about. And again, checkpoints to see if you are on track. So again, this isn't meant to scare anybody, but it kind of backtracks into if you feel behind, incrementally increasing your savings rate is a strategy worth implementing. So savings factors to help you on your journey to retirement. So according to this example and according to the industry, if you're 45 years old, you should have 4 times your salary in retirement assets. So if you're 45 making $50,000 a year, the industry encourages you to have about $200,000 in retirement assets. Again, this is separate from your emergency fund or excess cash savings, specifically to retirement accounts. So again, it's not meant to scare anybody, but if you feel like you're behind or don't fall into these guidelines, again, implement that strategy of increasing your contribution every time you get a raise to your savings or to your retirement accounts. And the last slide here, the last section, just covers general tips and tricks. Just kind of a, random list of things to keep in mind. Overestimate your monthly bills when creating your budget. So this is something that I put into practice after reading an article of just overstating it by, $5, $10, $15 a month, right? And the impact over a 12-month period will be great after doing that. Coupons, physical or browser extension. I initially was not a really big believer in this, but after doing some research before putting the material together for this presentation, there was some pretty cool data out there on, being able to generate some of these coupons and putting them in the browser extension too, as well. Cashback apps. So we actually use Ibotta. This has to do with getting cash back at different grocery stores. Now, same thing with coupons, right? There's another side to this that, you want to make sure you don't fall into the trap. You're only going to buy this because you got a coupon, or you're going to buy it because you got a coupon when you wouldn't have otherwise, right? But the nice thing about Ibotta is that you don't even have to necessarily look at it before going to the store. You can just, pay for your food, scan the receipt, and then sometimes it could be, $5, $6 off, right? Which is pretty cool. So there's a lot of different cashback apps like this out there. If you use different types of credit cards, find one that might benefit your spending habits. So I have a friend that has a Cabela's card, big hunting family, big fishing family, and that suits, falls into their personality, right? And using that credit card because they're probably already going to spend money on that. My wife and I do a lot of traveling. We have friends and family kind of spread all around the country. So we're on a plane at least once a year. So we have an airline credit card, right? You got to be careful with different annual fees. But the point is, once you have a good grip on your budget, there are different tools out there that, if you're spending money on certain things anyway, chances are you can get some cash. There's some cashback apps. There's different credit cards out there. If you use credit cards and are used to, paying them off on a monthly basis, that could really benefit this area of your spending. And then revisit your budget when there is a change, right? We talked about the raise and the bonus, implementing that systematic strategy. A new job, that is a great time to revisit your budget. Family expands, right? So maybe you are contributing to an HSA account and you already had one kid and you weren't maxing out your contributions, but now you had another kid and you know that your medical expenses will increase once again. Well, maybe it makes sense to, put some of that excess savings into your HSA account if you're going to use it anyway, right? Because there's very big tax advantages when utilizing health savings accounts. So again, little life changes like that, right? Get married, get a new job, family expands is a very good time to revisit your budget. And then again, last example here, small changes have large impacts. We show this a lot when we're doing education, and I always kind of asterisk it. I'm not here to deter you from enjoying the finer things in life, but we all probably have those areas of spending that we can dial back a little bit. For a lot of people, it's eating out, right? Eating out for lunch, buying that coffee. For me, it was definitely streaming services. Probably don't need HBO, Netflix, Hulu all at once. I've definitely watched them all before, but you can't watch them all at the same time, right? So again, this is just a great example of small savings. So if you basically save $5 a day over a 30-year period and would invest that savings into the market, after 30 years, you'd have about $88,000. So, and that's just $5 a day. So I think, for most people, we could probably find areas of spending that we could dial back on. This is just a great example that shows even those smallest of changes can have some pretty big impacts over longer periods of time. All right, so that is all I have. Again, just in review, Emerge 360, division of TrustPoint, focusing on investment management and financial planning services for individuals. We work with relationships $50,000 and up. Where that kind of came from is TrustPoint has a different minimum on the TrustPoint side, and Emerge 360, we were able to lower that minimum and kind of expand our services to a wider group of individuals. Ongoing financial planning, dedicated team, enhanced technology. So it's a great kind of hybrid approach. We have a some cool technology that's very interactive with clients when they want to access their account and see what's going on, and still have that dedicated team to talk about any of your needs, whether it's financial planning, investment management, etc. So there's some QR codes here. You can check out our website or schedule a meeting with us. Otherwise, again, don't remember to follow us on social media. See those little icons down below. Otherwise, feel free to reach out at this number here or email the Emerge email as well. But would like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Again, please reach out to us if you have any questions concerning the content that we covered, or if there was something that we didn't cover that you thought we would be happy to take any questions. Hope the start of 2023 is treating everybody well. And again, thanks for signing on, and we'll see you at future webinars. Thank you.